Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe and tap the bell icon. Samantha had always believed in the magic of a good dinner out. The calm rhythm of conversation, the soft clink of silverware against china, the warmth of candlelight reflecting off the crystal glasses. This wasn't just any dinner, though. This was meant to be the night that celebrated something important, a milestone in her life and her marriage to John Stevens, a tech mogul with a reputation for being both ruthless in business and completely devoted to his family. The restaurant they had chosen was one of the most exclusive in the city, a place where tables were nearly impossible to reserve and where the mere act of walking in without a booking could get you turned away on the spot. Samantha wasn't nervous. She was used to this kind of luxury. She was used to the attention, the whispers of recognition when people saw her walking into the room with her husband. John had always been the more reserved one, staying out of the spotlight. But not her. Samantha thrived in it. She wore a sleek, black silk dress that seemed to glide over her skin like water. Her hair, freshly styled into loose waves, framed her face perfectly. A touch of makeup, just enough to highlight her features, and she was ready for an evening that was sure to be as flawless as the rest of her life. The hostess greeted them with a smile that faltered when she glanced down at her reservation book. "Welcome, Mrs. Stevens," she said, her voice smooth but with a hint of hesitation. "How may I assist you?" Samantha returned the smile, her voice steady. "A reservation for 2 under Stevens. We're here to celebrate." The hostess's eyes briefly scanned the page, her fingers running along the list of names. A frown tugged at the corners of her mouth. "I'm terribly sorry, Mrs. Stevens," she said after a moment, her tone growing more formal. "But I don't see your reservation here." Samantha blinked. It was impossible. She pulled out her phone and showed the hostess the email confirmation she had received when she booked the table 2 weeks ago. The confirmation not only included the time and date but also mentioned that they had been upgraded to a VIP reservation due to John's long-standing patronage. "I made this booking myself," Samantha said, trying to keep her voice calm despite the rising irritation in her chest. "This is for 2, under Stevens. There must be some mistake." The hostess glanced at the email, then back at Samantha. "I see it now," she said, but her voice was distant. "However, I'm afraid there's no table available for you at the moment. You'll have to wait." Samantha's heart dropped into her stomach. She scanned the dining room, noting the tables, all of them filled. It was clear that this wasn't just a matter of a booking error. It felt deliberate. She could feel the weight of eyes on her, the stares of the other diners growing more intense. It was the kind of attention that made her skin prickle uncomfortably. John had been standing slightly behind her, watching the exchange quietly. He was, as usual, the calm to her storm, always so composed, never one for dramatics. He stepped forward, his towering presence filling the space between them. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice smooth but sharp. The hostess hesitated for just a moment, but that was enough. It was as if she had been waiting for him to say something. She looked down at her reservation book, fumbling with it briefly before answering. "Sir, there appears to be a mix-up. But I assure you, we'll do our best to get you seated." Samantha felt her pulse quicken. The unease she had been feeling all evening now seemed more pronounced. Something wasn't right, and she wasn't sure if it was just her nerves getting the better of her, or if there was something deeper going on. John's jaw tightened. He turned back to Samantha, his expression unreadable, before glancing at the maitre d' standing off to the side, who had been watching the entire exchange. "Take care of it," he said, his voice low, but carrying an edge of authority that cut through the tension in the air. The maitre d' didn't flinch. He nodded stiffly, but there was something almost fearful in the way he avoided John's gaze. "Right away, sir. Please follow me." As the maitre d' led them to their table, the quiet murmur of the room seemed to grow louder. Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. People were still looking, their eyes flicking from her to John and then back to the host, their curiosity piqued. It was as if they were all waiting for something to happen, like they were anticipating a scene. But what kind of scene? She sat down at the table, the plush velvet chair feeling strangely cold against her back. John, as usual, seemed unfazed. His demeanor hadn't changed, but Samantha noticed the tension in his posture. Something was different about this evening, something that made her pulse race with a strange combination of fear and anticipation. "I don't like this, John," Samantha whispered as she adjusted her napkin, trying to push the discomfort from her mind. "This isn't just a mistake. They're treating us differently." John didn't reply immediately. He picked up his menu, scanning it briefly before setting it down with a sigh. "I know," he said finally, his voice measured, calm. "Something's not right." Before Samantha could say anything else, John's phone buzzed on the table. He picked it up quickly, his eyes scanning the screen. His face shifted slightly as he read the message, and then he stood up abruptly, muttering a quick apology to her. "I need to take this," he said, his voice tight. "I'll be right back." Samantha watched him walk away, her mind racing with 100 questions. She couldn't help but feel isolated in that moment, sitting at the table with only her thoughts and the strange, buzzing tension in the room. She stared at the glass of wine in front of her, its deep red color mocking her unease. What was going on? Just as she was about to pick up her glass, she caught sight of something that stopped her cold. Across the room, near the back exit, a man was staring at her. She froze. His face was familiar, but she couldn't quite place him. He was standing near the wall, looking directly at her with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. There was something about the way he looked at her, something unsettling. She turned her gaze away quickly, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was still watching her. Her heart raced. Could he be someone from her past? Maybe an old acquaintance, someone she hadn't seen in years? Her mind was spinning when John suddenly appeared at her side. He looked different. His expression was darker, the usual calmness replaced with something else, something she couldn't quite read. "We need to leave," he said, his voice tight. "Now." Samantha stood up quickly, confused. "What's going on, John? Who was that man? Why are we leaving?" John didn't answer immediately. He just took her hand, his grip firm but urgent. "I'll explain later," he said, his voice low. "We need to get out of here. Now." As they made their way to the exit, Samantha couldn't help but glance back over her shoulder. The man was still there, watching them, his gaze never leaving her. And for the first time in a long while, Samantha felt the cold sting of fear settle deep in her chest. Cliffhanger, as they stepped out of the restaurant, the cold night air hit her like a wave. But it wasn't the chill that made her shiver. It was the feeling that something was terribly wrong, something far deeper than just a reservation mix-up. John was hiding something from her, and whatever it was bigger than she could have ever imagined. Samantha's breath clouded in the chilly night air as John led her down the street, his hand gripping hers so tightly that she could feel the tension in his fingertips. The normally cool, composed man she had married was now a stranger, and the rapid pulse of her own heart echoed her anxiety. Something was terribly wrong. As they turned the corner, leaving the upscale restaurant behind, Samantha couldn't stop the flood of questions that burst into her mind. What was that all about? Why had John looked so different when he came back to the table? And who was that man, watching them like he knew them? Her mind raced, and the unease that had settled in her chest earlier was now a suffocating weight. "John, talk to me," she said, her voice tight with worry. "What's going on? Who was that man? Why did we leave like that?" John didn't respond immediately, his eyes scanning the street ahead as if he was looking for something, or someone. His pace quickened, his steps long and purposeful, until they reached his sleek black car parked by the curb. He opened the door for her, his movements quick and almost mechanical. "Get in," he said. His voice sharp. "We need to leave now. I'll explain everything when we're safe." Samantha hesitated for a moment, the shock of the evening still heavy in her chest. But something about his tone, something that wasn't just urgency, but fear, made her step into the car without another word. She closed the door behind her, and John immediately climbed into the driver's seat. The car's engine roared to life, and he pulled into the street without glancing back. The silence that enveloped them was thick and suffocating. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Samantha's mind was swirling, and John's silence only made it worse. She couldn't take it any longer. She turned to him, her voice trembling with the force of her emotions. "John, please. What's going on? Who was that man? And why are you acting like this? You're scaring me." John's knuckles tightened around the steering wheel. "I didn't want to get you involved," he muttered under his breath, more to himself than to her. "But there's no choice now. It's happening, and we have to deal with it." Samantha's heart thudded painfully in her chest. "Deal with what? What's happening?" John's jaw tightened, and for the first time that evening, his eyes met hers. "I wish I could explain everything right now, but we're not safe. Not yet. I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She stared at him, searching his face for some kind of reassurance, but finding none. The man she had known for so long, the man who had always been so confident, so in control, was now a stranger, lost in his own fears, lost in something she couldn't even begin to understand. "I don't know what's going on, John," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I don't know if I can trust you anymore." The words hit John like a physical blow, and for a moment, his face softened with something that resembled regret. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by that same look of determination. "You don't have a choice. You're already involved. You're in this now, whether you like it or not." Samantha recoiled at the coldness in his words. It was as if a wall had gone up between them. The ride felt endless, and with each passing minute, her mind churned with questions. Who was that man? Why was John so afraid? And why did it feel like their entire world was crashing down around them? The car finally pulled up to their gated mansion, the familiar sight of their home offering no comfort. As they walked inside, John led her straight to the living room, his eyes darting around, checking every corner, making sure they weren't being followed. Samantha's heart pounded as she followed him, her anxiety mounting with each passing second. John turned to face her, his eyes now filled with an intensity that made her freeze. "Sit down," he said quietly. "We need to talk." Samantha obeyed, taking a seat on the plush couch. Her hands were shaking as she clasped them together in her lap, waiting for the storm to break. "That man," John began, his voice low and measured, "was someone from my past. Someone I thought I'd left behind. He's not someone I ever wanted to see again." Samantha's eyes widened. "What do you mean? What kind of past are you talking about?" John paced the room, his frustration growing as he spoke. "I was involved in some things before I met you, Samantha. Things that aren't exactly legal." He stopped and faced her, his expression dark. "I worked for a powerful group. A group that operates in the shadows, doing things most people would never understand." Samantha's mind reeled. This was too much, too fast. "What are you saying, John? You were involved in something criminal?" John's lips tightened. "Not just criminal. Dangerous. People in high places. People who," he stopped himself, taking a deep breath. "People who still think I owe them something. And that man? He's one of them. He's been tracking me, watching me for years." Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. The man from the restaurant, the one who had been watching them, it was clear now that he wasn't just some random person. He was part of something much larger. Something far more sinister. Why didn't you tell me about this? Samantha whispered, her voice breaking. Why keep me in the dark? We could have faced this together. John looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I was trying to protect you, Sam. I wanted to give you the life you deserve. I never wanted you to know about my past. But now it's too late. Samantha shook her head in disbelief. You think hiding this from me would protect me? All these years, you've been keeping secrets from me. The man at the restaurant, he knows you. He knows everything about you, doesn't he? John's silence was the answer she needed. The truth was out. She didn't know the extent of it, but she knew enough to realize that everything had changed. Her life, the life she had built with John, was built on lies. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she wiped them away, not wanting him to see her break down. I don't know if I can do this, John. I don't know if I can be with someone who's been hiding something so dangerous. John dropped to his knees in front of her, his eyes desperate. I never wanted this for you, Samantha. You're my everything. But if you leave me now, it will only make things worse. You'll be in even more danger. Samantha looked at him, her mind a whirlwind of confusion and betrayal. The man she had loved, the man she thought she knew, was hiding a dark, dangerous past. And now, she was caught in the middle of it all. She stood up abruptly, pacing the room. I need time. I need space. I don't know what to think right now. I need to understand what I'm dealing with. What we're dealing with. John reached out for her, his face pleading. Samantha, please. Don't walk away. Not now. We're in this together, and we have to fight this together. Samantha pulled her hand away from his. I need to think. I can't think straight right now. Just, give me time. She walked out of the room, leaving John behind, his desperate gaze following her. As she made her way upstairs, her mind was reeling. Her life, her marriage, her entire world, everything felt like it was crumbling. Could she forgive him? Could she live with the truth of who John really was? One thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. Cliffhanger, as Samantha sat alone in their bedroom, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions coursing through her, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The message was from an unknown number, and the words it contained made her blood run cold. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into, Samantha. Leave him. It's your only way out. Samantha's heart raced as she stared at the message on her phone. The words sent a chill down her spine. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into, Samantha. Leave him. It's your only way out. Her breath caught in her throat. She quickly turned the phone over, as if somehow doing so would erase the haunting message from her mind. But it was too late. The words, those cold, anonymous words, had already planted a seed of doubt in her mind. Was this a warning? Who could possibly know about her marriage, about the danger John had warned her about? And why was someone telling her to leave him? Was it the same person who had been watching them at the restaurant? Was it someone connected to John's past? Samantha walked over to the window, pulling back the curtain and looking out into the darkened night. The silence of the mansion seemed to weigh on her shoulders like a heavy burden. The city lights shimmered in the distance, but they felt so far away, as if she were trapped in a world of her own making. Her mind spun with 1,000 questions, but no answers. She thought about the man at the restaurant. The tension in John's eyes when he had spoken about his past. The fear in his voice. Was it all true? Was John really part of something so dangerous that it could endanger both of them? Samantha's thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. She stiffened, her body reacting before her mind could even catch up. She looked over at the door, her heart skipping a beat. It was him. John. But something felt different now. After everything that had happened, she wasn't sure she could look at him the same way. She wasn't sure if she could trust him. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Samantha hesitated. Her mind was screaming at her to run. To leave. To escape from the uncertainty that had settled over her life like a dark cloud. But she couldn't just walk away. Could she? Sam, John's voice came from the other side of the door, his tone strained, desperate. Please, let me in. We need to talk. She took a deep breath and walked toward the door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle. Part of her wanted to slam the door shut and never speak to him again. But another part, the part that still loved him, despite everything, wanted to hear him out. She opened the door, but she didn't look at him. She couldn't bring herself to. John stepped inside, his eyes searching hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension between them was suffocating, like an invisible force that neither of them could escape. I'm sorry, Sam, John finally said, his voice raw with emotion. I didn't want to bring this into our lives. I didn't want to put you in danger. But I couldn't protect you from the past forever. It's catching up to us. Samantha's gaze flicked to the floor. She didn't know what to say. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But how could she after everything? How could she trust someone who had kept such dark secrets from her? Who is that man, John? Samantha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Who are these people you're involved with? And why didn't you tell me about them? John ran a hand through his hair, his frustration evident. I've told you everything I can, Sam. I can't explain the details. But I'm not the man you think I am. The things I did. I had no choice. Samantha swallowed hard. No choice, she repeated, her voice trembling. You had no choice but to hide things from me? To lie to me? To put me in danger? I didn't want this, Sam. John said, his voice cracking. I wanted to protect you. I wanted us to have a life, our life, without any of this mess. But I can't outrun the past forever. The people I was involved with, they'll come for me. And if they can't get to me, they'll come for you. Samantha's heart raced. His words, his raw desperation, hit her like a punch to the gut. She felt dizzy, overwhelmed, and completely unsure of what to do next. Why didn't you tell me any of this before, John? She asked, her voice shaky. Why wait until it's too late? He looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I thought I could protect you. I thought I could keep you out of it. But I was wrong. I should have told you everything from the beginning. Samantha took a step back, her mind spinning. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. John, the man she had married, the man she thought she knew, had been hiding a part of himself from her. A dangerous part. A part that now threatened everything they had built together. What are we going to do, John? She asked, her voice barely audible. How can we fix this? How can we get out of this? He met her gaze, his eyes dark and full of pain. I don't know if we can get out of it, Sam. But I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. I'll fight for us. For you. Samantha's heart wavered. She still loved him. Despite everything, despite the lies, despite the danger, she still loved him. But how could she trust him now? How could she continue to live in a world that felt like it was spiraling out of control? The phone buzzed on the table again, snapping her out of her thoughts. She looked at it. The same unknown number. The message was short and chilling. You can't hide forever. Leave him now. Samantha's blood ran cold. Was this a warning? Was someone watching them? Who is this? She whispered, her voice trembling. John didn't answer at first. Then he spoke, his voice tense. It's them. They've found us. Samantha felt a surge of panic. What do we do now? How do we escape? John's expression hardened. We don't escape. We fight. We face this head-on. But we need to be smart. We need to be careful. But how do we fight, John? Against people like that? Samantha asked, her voice rising. What chance do we have? John grabbed her shoulders, looking into her eyes with an intensity that left no room for doubt. We have each other. And that's all we need. I'll protect you, Sam. I swear it. But Samantha wasn't sure anymore. Could she trust him? Could she really believe that he was capable of protecting her? Or had she been living a lie? Suddenly, there was a loud crash from downstairs, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Someone was in the house. Samantha's heart skipped a beat as she looked at John, her eyes wide with fear. It's happening, he whispered, his voice hoarse with urgency. Before Samantha could say anything, John grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door. Come on. We need to get out of here. Now. Samantha's mind raced as she followed him, her heart pounding in her chest. Everything she thought she knew was unraveling. Her world, her safe, perfect world, was crumbling around her. And she was running out of time. Cliffhanger, as they reached the stairs, the door to the mansion slammed open, and a figure stood in the doorway, tall, menacing, and all too familiar. John froze. Samantha's blood ran cold as the figure stepped forward, a smile creeping across his face. I told you, John, the man said, his voice low and mocking. You can't run from your past. Samantha stood frozen at the top of the staircase, her breath caught in her throat. The man in the doorway was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in dark, tailored clothing that screamed authority. But it wasn't his appearance that left her paralyzed with fear, it was the recognition that flickered in her mind. This man. She knew him. His cold smile twisted her insides, as if he were savoring her shock. It's been a long time, Samantha, he said, his voice deep and smooth, like silk and steel. John's grip tightened on Samantha's hand. He didn't look at her, didn't even blink. His eyes, fixed on the man in the doorway, were filled with a mixture of anger, regret, and something else, something darker. Rook, John finally said, his voice low, as if saying the name itself was a betrayal. What do you want? The man, Rook, took a step forward, his boots echoing on the marble floor as he moved. What do I want? He repeated, as if the question were absurd. I want what I've always wanted, John. Control. Power. And you, my old friend, are in my way. Samantha's mind was reeling. She had no idea what was going on, but it was clear that the man who stood in front of her and John was no stranger. He was part of something much bigger than anything she had imagined, something far more dangerous. You're still playing this game? John's voice had a tinge of bitterness. After everything we've been through? Rook's smile only widened. You were the one who decided to leave the game, John. You walked away from the life we built. But you knew, he paused, his gaze flicking to Samantha, you knew it was never going to let you go. Samantha's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to escape, to hide. But she couldn't. Her feet felt as if they were cemented to the floor. She needed answers. She needed to understand what was happening, what John had been involved in, and why it was all falling apart now. Who are you, really? She demanded, her voice trembling but defiant. What is all of this? Rook's eyes flicked to her, then back to John. She doesn't know, does she? He said with a mockingly pitying tone. Well, John, I guess it's time to tell her the truth. John stiffened, his jaw tightening. You don't have to do this, Rook. Oh, but I do, Rook replied, his gaze sharpening. Because she's in this now, whether you like it or not. Samantha looked between the two men, a flood of emotions crashing over her. Betrayal. Fear. Confusion. And an unsettling sense that everything she had believed about her life, about her marriage, was an illusion. "John," she whispered, her voice breaking, "what is this? What is going on? What did you get yourself into?" John's expression softened, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he looked at her with honesty. Raw, painful honesty. "I wanted to protect you," he said. "I thought I could keep you safe from the past. But I was wrong. Rook and I were once partners. We did things together, terrible things. And when I tried to leave that life behind..." Rook's laugh cut through John's words, sharp and mocking. "You think you can just walk away from me? From everything we built? From the empire we forged?" Samantha's mind was spinning. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall into place, but there were still too many gaps. Who was Rook? What had John been involved in? And why was it all falling apart now? "John," Samantha whispered, her voice barely audible, "what did you do?" John turned to her, his eyes filled with sorrow. "I hurt people. I made deals with dangerous men. I thought I could escape, but there's no escaping this world." Samantha's heart clenched in her chest. The man she loved, her husband, was not the man she had thought he was. And now, his past had come crashing into their lives, threatening everything they had built together. Rook stepped forward, closing the distance between him and John. "You think you can just walk away from all of it?" he asked, his voice icy. "There's no way out, John. Not for you. Not for her." Samantha's breath caught in her throat as Rook's gaze shifted to her. His eyes were cold, calculating, and there was no warmth, no humanity, in them at all. "You don't belong here, Samantha," he said. "You never did." "Stop," John snapped, stepping in front of her, his body tense, ready to defend her from whatever Rook had planned. "Leave her out of this. She has nothing to do with it." Rook raised an eyebrow, his smirk widening. "But she does, John. She's already in it. And now, she's a liability." John's shoulders sagged, and for a moment, he looked defeated. "Please, don't hurt her. I'll do whatever it takes. You want money? Power? It's yours. Just leave her out of it." Rook's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "You think you can buy your way out of this? You're delusional." The tension in the room was thick, almost suffocating. Samantha didn't know what to think, what to believe. Could she trust John? Could she trust herself? She felt like she was drowning in a sea of uncertainty, trapped between the man she loved and the dangerous world he had tried to shield her from. Then, something shifted. The look in Rook's eyes changed, his posture straightening as if he had just made up his mind. "I don't need your money, John," he said, his voice calm now. "But I do need something." "What do you want?" John asked, his voice tight with frustration. Rook's gaze never left Samantha. Her. John's expression faltered for the briefest moment. "What do you mean, her?" he asked, his voice laced with disbelief. "I mean, she's the key to everything," Rook said, his smile returning. "You see, John, this was never about you. It's about her." Samantha felt the blood drain from her face. "What do you want with me?" she demanded, her voice shaking with fear and confusion. Rook's smile was dark and calculating. "You'll understand soon enough." In that moment, something inside Samantha snapped. She wasn't just a pawn in this game. She wasn't some helpless woman who could be manipulated. She was going to fight. She was going to find a way to take control of her own fate, no matter the cost. "No," she said, her voice growing steadier with each word. "I won't be a part of this. I won't let you use me." Rook's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. You don't have a choice, Samantha. This game has already begun. Samantha stood her ground, her mind working faster than it ever had before. She had to think. She had to be smart. She couldn't let them dictate her life any longer. You're wrong, she said, her voice firm. I do have a choice. And I'm choosing to take control. The room fell silent. John's gaze flickered between Rook and Samantha, his expression filled with a mixture of fear and admiration. Rook, on the other hand, looked less certain, the cold confidence in his eyes beginning to crack. Samantha stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. This ends now. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she could trust John. But she knew one thing, she would no longer be a victim in this twisted game. She was going to fight, even if it meant facing the darkest corners of the world she had married into. Rook's eyes flickered with an emotion Samantha couldn't quite place, surprise? Fear? But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by that same cold, calculating stare. You can't win, Samantha, he said, his voice like a warning. But you can try. And with that, the game was on. Final twist and lesson. Samantha realized then that the greatest power she had wasn't in the money or the threats or the people around her, it was in the choices she made. In the moment, she had chosen to take control, to break free from the cycle of fear and manipulation that had been woven into her life for so long. The truth she discovered wasn't just about the past or the men who had been part of it. It was about her own strength, her resilience, and the power to decide her own future. The moment she chose to stand up was the moment she broke free from the invisible chains that had bound her. In the end, Samantha learned that the real battle was never about fighting the people who sought to control her. It was about conquering her own fears, doubts, and insecurities. And in that moment, she realized she had already won.